All right, parents, we're going to go ahead and give you a little help with this math homework so that you see what your child needs to do. So, notice this is the homework for the 17th, which is due on Friday. And I'm going to do the first couple just so that you are familiar with the strategy that I want the students to be able to use. So, notice that it says that I'm rounding 78 to the nearest tens. So we have these benchmark numbers. And so when I'm looking at the number 7, I know that this is going to have to be 70. So that 78's in between 70 and it's going to be in between 80. So it's in between two tens. Now, the number in the middle would be the number that falls between 70 and 80 and has to have a 5. So we put the 5 there and we add our 7. So we have 70, 75, and 80. Now I need to show where 78 is rounded to the nearest tens. So I know that 78 is going to be found somewhere over here. And that means that it's going to round to the nearest 10 would be 80. Now, the way that we learned was 78. This number right here tells us that it bumps up. It bumps up from 7 tens and it becomes 8 tens. And this becomes a 0. So that's how we learned a long time ago. But we're using benchmark numbers so kids know what number the original number falls in between. We have to know that. And then simply down here, rounding 37 to the tens, you're not using the sleeve there. We're not using the benchmark numbers. So this is where we say, well, I have a 7. And what does the 7 tell my 3 tens? If the ones place is greater than 5, if it's 5 or greater, then it bumps up and it becomes a fourth 10, which makes it nearest to 40. So the same thing when it comes to the hundreds. So notice this, that we're showing 562 rounded to the nearest hundred. So in this case, I see that it starts with a 5. So I know that I have to have 500 over here. So I know it's between two hundreds, 500 and 600. All right. This has to have a 5. And then I know that 50 is half of 100. So 50 comes here. And if this is 500, then that makes this 550. So 500, 550, 600. So where would 562 fall in that? It's going to be past 550, which means that I'm going to round to 600. But again, I'm going to show you this way. If we have 562, we go to the tens place, and this is a 6, so it's going to tell me to bump up to the next group of hundreds, which would make this 600, and I would eliminate those. All right, and then of course, down at the next one is just simply rounding to the nearest hundred. So I have my 541. The 4 right here, the tens place, is telling me that it is lower than 5. It didn't reach that halfway mark. So it's going to say stay right there at 500 and don't bump up to anything. So it's going to reach 500 as its closest mark. And the last part is using this strategy sleeve to show 1,398 to the nearest thousand. So again, I look here and I've got 1,000. So I'm going to put that in my box right here, my benchmark numbers. So I know that this number is going to be found between 1,000 and 2,000. Okay. And then this has to have a 5. And we already learned that that 50 was half of 100, but 500 is half of 1,000. So then I just put my 1 right there. So I have 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. So I have to show where 1,300 is. Well, if this is 500, then my 300 is going to be somewhere over here, which means that it's going to be closest to 1,000. And again, I can see 1,398. The 3 says stay right where you're at, do not bump up. So this becomes zeros and it is closest to 1,000. Okay, on the back side, we see that we have to take one number and we're going to round it to the nearest 10, round the same number to the nearest 100, and round the same number to the nearest 1,000. So when I'm looking at this, I like to look at my tens place right there. Okay, and 29 is going to round to 30. So watch this. This is what kids do. They put 30, but that's not the number rounded to 30. So they've got to include all of the other numbers. but right here is my rounded number to tens. Now when I do to the hundreds, I just expand it over here. And now I've got 329. I know that the 2 tells my 3 to stay put, so this becomes 300. Notice I've got it rounded to the hundreds, but I have to include my thousands there. And then, of course, the last one is rounding to 1,000, so I'm going all the way here. The 3 tells me to stay down at 5,000. And there is my thousands place. The boys and girls will have to round the number to tens, which means including all the other parts, round it to 100, and round it to 1,000. Down here at the brain challenge, notice that you have to choose all the numbers that would round to 5,000 when they're rounded to the nearest thousand. So if I'm looking right here, I see the 6, and the 6 tells me to bump up to the next one, the next thousand, which means this is rounded to 1,000. So I'm good right there. Oh, no, I'm not. Nope, nope, nope. Because it's 5,000. So guess what? I'm not good there because I need 5,000 and not 6,000. All right, if I look right here, the 8 tells my 4 to bump up to the next thousand, which makes it 5,000. And this one rounds to 5,000. So really what students are going to have to do is round each one of these and then decide which one equals 5,000 and circle it. And they can put an X on the ones that do not equal 5,000. I hope this was helpful. It's a little bit different than maybe how you were taught to round, but this is what their homework sheet looks like. And I appreciate all your help.